Dalinar saw that the approaching soldiers had formed a distinct line. Men and women in gleaming shardplate charged forward. The scout pulled to a halt, looking at the charging shard-bearers. They ran shoulder to shoulder, not a single one out of place, like a crystalline wave. As they drew closer, Dalinar could see that their plate was unpainted, but it glowed either blue or amber at the joints and across glyphs at the front, as with other radiants he'd seen in his visions.
They don't have their shardblades out. That's a good sign.
The scout outside backed his horse up. There looked to be a good 200 shard-bearers out there. Alethkar owned some 20 blades, Yakaved a similar number. If one added up all the rest in the world, there might be enough total to equal the two powerful Vorin kingdoms. That meant, so far as he knew, there were less than 100 blades in all of the world. And here, he saw 200 shard-bearers gathered in one army. It was mind-numbing. The radiance slowed, falling into a trot, then a walk. The soldiers around Dalinar grew still. The leading radiance stopped in a line, immobile. Suddenly, others began to fall from the sky. Stormlight blossomed from their fingers. These all glowed blue. Soon there were some 300 radiants out on the field. They began summoning their blades. The weapons appeared in their hands like fog forming and condensing. It was done in silence. Their visors were down.
If them charging without swords was a good sign, then what does this mean?
A suspicion began to rise within Dalinar. The horror that he might know what this vision was about to show him. The scout, at last unnerved, turned his horse and galloped back to the keep.
Open the gate!
As if a little wood and stone would be a protection against hundreds of shard-bearers. A single man with plate and blade was almost an army unto himself. And that wasn't accounting for the strange powers these people had. The soldiers pulled the sally port open for the scout. Making a snap decision, Dalinar leaped down and charged to the opening. Behind, the officer Dalinar had seen earlier was clearing a path for himself to walk up to the kill slit. Dalinar reached the open door, darting through it just after the scout charged back into the courtyard. Dalinar ran out onto the open plain. The expansive straight wall stretched above him like a highway up to the sun itself. The radiance was still distant, though they'd stopped within bowshot. Transfixed by the beautiful figures, Dalinar slowed, then stopped, about 100 feet away. One knight stepped ahead of his companions, his brilliant cape a rich blue. His shard blade of rippling steel had intricate carvings along the center. He held it toward the keep for a moment. Then he drove it point first into the stone plain. Dalinar blinked. The shard-bearer removed his helm, exposing a handsome head with blonde hair and pale skin, light as that of a man from Shinnerar. He tossed the helm to the ground beside his blade. It rolled slightly as the shard-bearer made fists in his gauntlets, arms at his sides. He opened his palms wide, and the gauntlets fell free to the rocky ground. He turned, his shard plate falling off his body, breastplate dropping free, greaves slipping off. Underneath, he wore a rumpled blue uniform. He stepped free of his boot-like sabatons and continued to walk away. Shard plate and shard blade, the most precious treasures any man could own, tossed to the ground and abandoned like refuse. The others began to follow suit. Hundreds of men and women driving shard blades into the stone and then removing their plate. Dalinar found himself running forward. The door behind him opened and some curious soldiers left the keep. Dalinar reached the shard blades. They sprouted from the rock like glittering silver trees, a forest of weapons. They glowed softly in a way his own shard blade never had. But as he dashed among them, their light started to fade. A terrible feeling struck him, a sense of immense tragedy, of pain and betrayal. Stopping where he stood, he put a hand to his chest.
What is happening?
What is this dreadful feeling? Radiance. They walked away from their discarded weapons.